podcast. This is episode number 15. We're streaming from our normal location at our normal time. If you guys haven't noticed yet, we stream every Monday night at about 8 o'clock. You guys are welcome to come join us. We have a great time. It's just a blast. We listen to some chill music at the beginning, we listen to some chill music at the end, and in between we talk and we have a grand old time. And it's a really great way for us to have user feedback. You guys could just talk to us right there, right on the spot. Normally a few people join in and there's a lot of conversation that goes down in the chat. It's just a great time. So if you guys can make some time, 8 o'clock Mountain Time, by the way, go ahead and stop in, and it's a great time, and we'd love to have you guys here. Before we get into it, I just have a couple of announcements I'd like to make, or things I'd like to say. So, starting soon, we would like to start having guests on our podcast. And this is an open invitation to everybody. Not saying you're going to get in, but this is an open invitation to anybody that would like to. So if you think you have some great input, or if you think that you have something to contribute to the podcast, or you have some knowledge that you would like to share, this is a great place for you to do that. And now is your time to do that. So in the comments or on Twitter, hit us up or email us or say that you're interested in being on the podcast. It's really simple. It's just at the Holo Herald, or probably the easiest way is just to leave a comment down below and we'll hit you up. We're going to get a whole application system down and everything like that. We just love to hear some input from the community and from everybody out there. And we've already got some great interviews lined up with some really influential people in the community and in the mixed reality and augmented reality sphere. So, we're just excited to have everybody on for the ride. So I guess without further ado, we'll get into it. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Paul.
So I'm Paul, back again, of course. I was on last week, and I plan on being a more regular feature again. I did take a little break there for a while. I was a little busy, but now I should be pretty good. Besides, maybe next week I'll be starting a new job, but I think we have a lot of good things to be talking about tonight, and I hope we start getting more people in on these streams. I find it a lot more enjoyable to talk to you guys live. It seems like we can get a better dialogue going with the community rather than just reading comments after the fact that it happened and then we just have to write back to you. It's better if we can kind of speak to you as you're writing to us. I really like that a lot. So if you guys are capable of reaching us, feel free to hop on. It's usually about 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Monday. So we'd love to have you.
Yeah, it's a little bit later, sadly. Hopefully soon, once we get a real schedule with everybody laid down, we'll be able to bump it up a little bit. So hopefully a few more people will be able to join us, a little bit more even for everybody. But, the podcast is a great thing that you can just throw on in the background and listen to live. Or, and as always, there's always the pre-recorded version out for everybody every Friday. So there's a little bit of a gap. I mean, when you're there live, you get to hear our mess ups sometimes, but at the same time, you get to be there for the news right there, and you actually get to drive the discussion. So yeah. So are you excited about doing interviews, Paul?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of really cool people out there. I've actually been really impressed with the community surrounding AR/MR technology, so I think there's a lot of really friendly people out there who are really smart and have a lot to offer, and I think it's kind of, if not our goal, our duty to get their voices heard, because they're coming up with some really cool stuff, and that's kind of what the Holo Herald's about. So this is just an extension of that. So I'm really excited to take that next step with our podcast, rather than us just talking, which we really don't know a lot, when we can actually get in some experts and pick their brains and ask some questions. And you guys can even ask some questions if we have them on live. I'm not sure how many we will have on live, but yeah, I think it will just be a great experience.
Yeah, and this is open to everybody, too. We've had some people that have thrown out some really intelligent comments in the past, and we would love to have that dialogue live, or at least recorded on the podcast. Not necessarily will we do it live, because sometimes people will say stuff they can't take back, and when it's on the stream, it's kind of hard to take a lot of that back, so it takes a little bit more practice that we're still not even good at yet. But it'll just be interesting to have some people. So, yeah, hit us up if you're interested in that. Yeah, like I said, the easiest way is to just leave a comment down below, or hit us up on Twitter, or you guys are smart. You'll find a way to get a hold of us in some way. That idea kind of started from when we were on AR Dirt podcast with Joseph from Pola. That was a really great podcast. That was a really cool time to, talk about the Holo Herald and talk with him about some of those things. So we'll probably return the favor and have him on our podcast soon. And there's been quite a few people that have reached out to us, like founders of startups and people in the MR community, and hopefully some people at Microsoft we can get a hold of and have them come talk to us. And yeah, so it'll be a great old time. But I guess we can get into some of the new stuff we talked about. What's some of the big stuff that happened last week? Was like E3?
E3 is currently happening.
Have you ever heard of that? What does this E3 people talk about? I haven't even ever heard of it. Is it even a big news source? Should we even talk about it?
I think they give it more news than it's actually worth. I mean, it's just E3. But no, it's pretty big. That's where all the big game developers go to release their games, and it's where all the big hardware people go to release their hardware news. So I think the one that we're going to focus more on today is Microsoft's. I think PlayStation's was today, but they didn't have a lot of big news that concerns us. But Microsoft did just release their new console. They announced the new console, the Xbox One X. So that's going to be the production name for the Project Scorpio. So I guess the biggest news surrounding that is that it won't involve VR support or even MR support at this point. Microsoft failed to mention anything about that, and the head of the project said that it's just not something we're interested in right now. So what do you think about that move by him to say, like, hey, we're not even interested in, or not only are we not interested in VR at this point, we're not interested in giving this console MR support, as I think a couple months ago we were talking about how they're probably gearing up to add MR support to this next console. So what do you think happened?
I think what's happened is they still want to milk every penny they can out of the X. You know what I mean? They're going to sell it as this, and then either a paid patch or some paid integration. Microsoft's a business, and they've always been smart at trying to milk you for everything you've been worth, especially since, like, we've seen DLC come out, where it's like you don't get the full picture right when it comes out. It's kind of set this mentality that you pay for a base product and then they'll add to it later, sometimes at your cost, sometimes not at your cost. And I think that's their approach for this. I don't see how they couldn't go VR, especially with how many games were announced. Like Fallout 4 was announced, but in VR, but it's going to be a completely separate release. I mean, there's no way they're not going to capitalize on that, especially one of the biggest titles of the past couple years. Coming out in VR, there's no way they're going to miss out on that. So I think it's them just kind of maybe trying to, and I think that's a lot of announcements. I think it's less them trying to, sorry, let me close this. That's a lot of announcements. So, I mean, they announced that the Project Scorpio has all these cool features. 4K was basically the biggest thing they put out of it. And I think if they started talking about VR and MR, it would have taken away from some of that other stuff. I don't know. I'm not like an announcement expert. Do you ever want to like not announce everything, or how do you feel about what do you think they're going for? Because it's got to be there.
I think the fact that they haven't announced it is generating like a lot of hype. Like, oh, why didn't they have it? Like PlayStation has it. And I think I was reading an interesting article in Wired, which I'll post, talking about how like the market for VR and MR is just not developed enough. I mean, when you look at the PlayStation VR, it's $400, which is the price of a PlayStation 4 Pro. So that's like their top end console. So you can get a top end console, but then if you want to play VR games on that, you have to pay them another $400 just for the headset. And they say that the headset isn't even to the point, like the VR games that are for the consoles aren't even to the point where they want to enter the market. So the Wired guy kind of insinuated that, hey, they only care about PC gamers here. In the fact that they're releasing these $300 VR MR.
They're kind of losing
headsets.
You a little bit, quite a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know where you were losing. God.
You're good. It'll all be in the pre-recorded version. If there's any time Paul cuts out, it's going to be in the pre-recorded version. But you guys can basically guess what he's going to say.
Yeah, I apologize. But basically what the guy said is there's just a bigger market in PC gaming right now. The console market just hasn't developed itself. Gosh.
We got some of that.
Okay. Well,
it's okay.
I apologize that my internet's potato quality, but we're working on it.
You're working on getting faster internet?
Oh yeah. Well, like I don't want to pay. They're gonna make me bundle. They're gonna make me bundle and buy a cable box, and I don't want a huge cable box. I don't even use cable. I just want internet.
So they're forcing you to bundle. There's no way around bundling.
Well,
we'll come back. We'll come back to E3. We'll come back to E3. Yeah. Let's talk about your internet.
To get the fastest internet possible, which what they're saying that what in my area is like 50 megabits per second, which I don't believe for a moment. Yeah. I'd have to bundle for it to be the cheapest, and I'm just like, you're still going to make me pay $90 a month, and I don't want your cable box, because I know you're going to, part of that $90 is me renting the cable box from you, which is a ridiculous thing. We should be able to buy our cable boxes. And then, I just want internet. That's all I want. I don't want TV, I don't want a phone service, I want internet. And, yeah, these companies, sometimes with these bundles, they think they're helping us, but they ruined it.
So, I don't see... do they offer Xfinity? This isn't going to be a plug for Xfinity, but basically in Utah, especially where we are, the only place to get decent internet is Xfinity by far. I mean, there's this huge monopoly. I mean, everywhere. I think it's a problem in most places in the United States. Mm-hmm. I mean, the commenters can let us down below. Like, do you guys have more than like 3 decent? I would even say 2. Where you guys live, do you guys have more than 2 decent internet providers? I doubt anywhere has more than 2 decent, right? I mean, how many providers are there where you are?
In Cincinnati, there's 2. Cincinnati Bell, and which is like the cable company. They're basically Comcast, but it's like Cincinnati Bell. And then there's Time Warner. So those are the only 2.
So you only have 2 options. You don't even have multiple options.
And it depends what neighborhood you live in. My friends, they lived in a different neighborhood than me this year. Their neighborhood was not supported by Cincinnati Bell. Even though Cincinnati Bell was like right down the road from them, I guess they just hadn't contracted out the area. So it's a very like schemy business to be in. Telemarketing, the telecommunication stuff.
So how that works is there's no other lines put in that. I guess so it'd be only Time Warner owns all their lines and they're not willing to rent out to anybody else or do anything like that, correct?
Yes, that's exactly how it works.
Interesting.
So, like, you know how Google Fi works, which is the phone service run through Google. They run through Verizon's towers, and that's because Verizon rents out the space. And basically, your phone plan is just paying Verizon the rental fee that Verizon's charging, and then a little bit obviously goes to Google. Like, they'll always get theirs. So, I guess at this point, Time Warner is just not willing to give it to anyone else like that bandwidth to anyone else to try and give them lower prices or whatever. I mean,
I've heard bad things about Time Warner. I know they're one of the only, at least for a while, they were one of the only people in Texas, like basically all of Texas. Especially, I know it was a big problem in Austin, Texas, because Google Fiber came into Austin, Texas, and Time Warner was like not happy about it because they were basically doing the same thing but in Austin, Texas. But when Google Fiber came in, it kind of forced everybody else to get extremely fast internet. Well, maybe not extremely fast, but faster internet. Other alternatives. And
offer the speeds that they're actually capable of offering at a price that is actually reasonable and not just completely gouging people for ridiculously slow speeds.
Exactly, because I don't know how Google Fiber can come in. I mean, they're Google. They can come in, and so I've used Google Fiber for quite a while. I don't have it currently, but up in Provo, Utah, was one of the first and only places, and it's now in Salt Lake. Utah's surprisingly one of the only states that has 2 locations with Google Fiber, which is pretty crazy. At least I think it was for a while. They've stopped rolling out Google Fiber, haven't they?
Yes, I believe they shifted it to someone else runs it now. It's not even Google that's going to run it anymore. I think,
but they're still.
They
doing
might have given
it
to Verizon. Though? Yeah, they're still giving gigabit internet, but I think you'll have to fact check me on this. But I thought it was something like Verizon made that deal as well with them. For Google Fiber. So I'm not sure exactly what it was, but I know they are not rolling out any more fiber locations.
As long as we're getting internet speeds, I think that was the whole ploy. At least if I understand Google Fiber correctly, because it's not for Google, it's not financially like a good business plan because they have to pay for all the fees to put it on. They have to pay for all this stuff. And then it costs a lot, and everybody's offering different speeds. So they're like way undercutting everybody an insane amount, because for at least in Provo, first off, if you're a student in Provo, you get free gigabit speed, which is insane. And for their basic package, I think it's like $50 a month, and you can get like 500 down or something insane. I don't know. And then I think it's like $75 a month, and you get gigabit speeds. I'm gonna look that up real quick. So it's not a smart business plan for them, was it? It didn't work out for them very well.
I don't think so, but again, it wasn't the deal wasn't to make money doing it. The deal was, I think, their business model is let's get as many people on the internet using Google's search engines and web browsers and using them as fast as possible, because faster internet means people can search more and do more on the internet, and Google makes money with every search. So I think that's the main goal, was just to get more people on the internet, like, connected, because they gave people like free internet, even if like they weren't willing to pay, or it was like really cheap.
It's
right?
a base. I think it's a base free. Let me look.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at plans and pricing right now. Okay, so fiber for 100 down is $50 a month. For 70 down, it's 1,000 down. For $70, it's 1,000 down, which is insane. By the way, I mean, for 20 extra bucks, why wouldn't you just go for the 1,000 package, right?
Yeah.
And then they offer fiber plus local TV, fiber plus normal TV, and fiber 1,000 plus TV, which is $160 a month. So you get TV, and it's pretty. I don't know who the TV's through, but 220 plus channels HD for $160 a month. So, I mean, you can tell they don't really want you to use the TV. But for $70 a month, which I'm going to assume most listeners out there and most everywhere else in the world, people are paying about $70 to $100 a month for 20 down is probably the average, I'm going to say, because internet speeds, I think the US is rated really terribly in internet speeds, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. We're like, among developed countries, we're one of the worst, where we really should be one of the best, but like we're just really terrible at internet speeds, and we need to fix the infrastructure, but that's a different topic, which gets a little political, so we'll stay off of that. But, yeah, it's just pretty ridiculous that we're in such a developed country, and yet internet is such like this archaic idea still to the companies who provide it, and we're not even capable of really getting speeds that are like way up there. Like, we should be like where South Korea is right now.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking at the map right now, and it looks like the United States has an average internet speed of 14.2, which is pretty crazy. You have to think about the metrics here, because some places are getting 1,000 down. So to equal that out, and most everybody I talk to around here in Utah, well, at least in bigger cities like Salt Lake, the average there is like 150, 250. Obviously, that part of Utah is a really big tech hub. But I mean, if you look up in like Nebraska and Tennessee and like South Dakota, it's terrible. In Montana, the internet speeds there are like positively terrible. So it's weird how they equal it out. But if we go up to other countries, like we have just slightly faster than Russia. And Australia is terrible. Australia's 8.2 down average. Wow. China's 4.1 down, which is surprising. Okay, let's go to South Korea. Their average is 26.7 down. That's insane.
Wow, that is crazy. Well, I'm doing an internet speed test right now, and I'll let you know what score I get. Oh wow, this is really embarrassing. I might not release these speeds.
Is that bad? What is it?
It's terrible. Well, right now it's hovering. Oh, there we go. 8.38.
What the heck? Are you serious?
No, yeah. But at my current apartment situation, it was included in my rent, and they said we get like a $15 credit or something like that. So they're paying dirt cheap for it.
What the freak? 8 down, dude? That's bad.
Yeah, but I'm not about to pay.
Let's find some countries you're on par with.
Yeah.
You're okay. That's still better than you're like Australia average.
Jeez.
You're Thailand. Thailand has faster internet than you. 8. France. You're on par with France. You're on par with Italy, Greece. Greenland, wow, 3.7. So I mean, the fact of the matter is the U.S. Okay, so we're decently compared to some of the other countries, but I think that's pretty recent, that upgrade. I'm pretty sure it was like 8 or 10 before. I think it's gone up recently. So we're finally starting to creep up there. But when you have countries like Sweden, who's got an average of 20, you have Norway, which has an average of 20, you have Finland, which has an average of 18. Latvia, I mean, Netherlands. There's some countries that you would not consider. The Czech Republic has about the same speed. Switzerland has faster. There's countries that you wouldn't expect to be like tech giants. And then, I mean, South Korea is so far ahead of us, it's not even funny. That are beating us by a lot. And the sickening factor is that the only reason that we have such slow internet is because of the monopoly on internet, correct?
Yeah, I would say that the companies that like run these kind of, I wouldn't like monopolies on these areas. They do keep speeds repressed and they raise prices faster than they are raising speeds. Like I think for what we're paying, we should get way faster speeds. Like for what most people are paying, I'd say they should get faster speeds. And I think another big thing is the companies, they give you a router when you get your internet. That most of the routers you get when you get your internet are like total crap.
Trash.
Just like, yeah, they're just not capable of handling the speed that you're paying for. So for anyone who's entering the internet market, if I could recommend one thing, when you buy your internet, buy a router and just throw out the one that the company gives you. Or I think most people rent their routers for like $5 a month. Is that correct?
I think it's closer to like $10 a month, but yeah.
But well, then just don't rent the router. Just be like, hey, I bought my own router. I actually just updated my family's router. I won't, I forget exactly what one, but it's one of those ones that's made by Google. And our internet is super fast now. And it's like, we're actually getting speeds of what we were paying for and not these ridiculous, like, when I was at home, we were getting like 50 down when we were paying for like 100 down. And now we're getting like consistently 80 on Wi-Fi. And then when you're plugged in via Ethernet, you're getting your 100. So that's perfect. But
it just blows my mind because where we live is a small town, compared to Cincinnati. I mean, you guys should be surpassing us by a significant amount. I mean, at my house, it was silly. We made the switch to completely. We got rid of TV, we got rid of phone, we got rid of everything, and we got rid of our old internet provider, and we switched to Xfinity. I'm just gonna plug them because I don't know how it is in your place, but it's the best we have here. Or wherever the users live or the listeners live, but they're pretty good here. And for the same exact price, actually for $10 less, we switched from 20 down to now they just bumped us up to like 250 down at our house. And for like a little podunk mountain surrounded town, that's pretty impressive, I'm proud of Comcast for doing that, but that's a very recent transition, But mostly everybody I know is still using their old crappy slow internet,
Yeah. So I'm on a website right now, speedtest.net, looking at the awards for Cincinnati, Ohio. And Cincinnati Bell actually offers gigabit fiber internet too. So I might actually look into that for like really cheap.
Dude, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, their average for the city is 56 down, 42 up. So that's Cincinnati Bell. That's like not affiliated with any big cable company. They're one of the few left that are like, they're super old. But I guess they do a great job according to this website. So if you're in the Cincinnati area, I'll plug them for you.
What's interesting is so I'm just gonna talk about how I would pay a lot more than $70 a month for gigabit internet, and I know. What do you think the average consumer? So let's talk about our parents or grandparents. What do you think is like a speed that an average person would need? Like they have Netflix and they have Hulu and they maybe watch it sometimes, but they also watch TV and stuff. What do you think? Let's say an average family of 2 parents and 2 kids. The kids are definitely tech savvy, you know what I mean? But the adults, they just watch TV and Netflix every once in a while. What do you think is like their speed that they should get, or they should look for?
Probably like 25 or 30. I'd say that's decent for all HD video and if you can get that consistently around your house, you're never going to have complaints of like slow internet when you're downloading things. Like if a kid's downloading a game, you might notice a slowdown. But I think like 30 is probably a decent average internet speed where you'll be happy with the performance at most times.
But the thing about 30 is if you can get 30 consistently everywhere in your house, you're doing good. But the thing is when you're doing 30, if you walk a little bit away, you're going to end up getting like 10. Or 15. And 30 will max out. I mean, if two people are watching Netflix, you're going to start seeing buffering issues. I would go up to say, like, you should look for at least like 100, you know? I'd say like 100 is bare minimum for everybody without seeing any problems. And that is if you're getting good, consistent internet, you know? But that's just me. I mean, at least I think so, especially with how, like, how everything is streaming now, you know, especially with like Netflix. Like if you want to watch Netflix and someone else wants to watch Netflix at the same time, I mean, those are both a bandwidth hog. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't know. That's what I think. What are you looking for? What's your speeds you want? Like, what do you want to get?
Well, now that I found out that Cincinnati Bell has gigabit internet, I'm just going to go for that. Like, I'm sure they've wired up my apartment building. My future apartment building that I'll be living in. So I'll just buy that because I'm willing to pay a lot for good internet because I'm tired of having slow internet. And yeah, I think...
The thing about internet too is you grab like two or three other neighbors and split that price with 1,000 down and you have a decent router and they're right there. You're not going to notice a thing. Like when I was at Provo at my dev boot camp, we all shared. There was 4 of us. We're at a coding boot camp, so everybody's always on the internet doing stuff. I never saw a single dip. And even when we were at school and there was like 30 or 40 people on it, insanely fast because it was like the business grade gigabit stuff. So it had this like massive internet thing. They brought this thing in one time too that was pretty crazy. It was like this super hub that you could like plug into it. It was like a hackathon, and it was like this Google Fiber hub that everybody could plug their computers into it, and it was like the fastest internet you can possibly get. I don't know. I'm gonna Google it real quick while you talk about something.
But well, the thing with like I don't think I could do like that deal with my neighbors because we have pretty big apartments. So the apartment I'll be moving into is like 1,000 square foot, so it's already pretty sizable. So we not only would we have to like buy that good of internet, you'd have to buy a pretty good router to go with it to spread it out, and like we have concrete walls and all that. So it's just I don't know how feasible that would be for me, but it's definitely feasible for just my apartment. But yeah, gigabit you can definitely spread around to a lot of people. It's pretty nice.
I can't find that big box thing, but they wheeled in this huge box thing that was like had all of this stuff on it, and it was like literally like the fastest internet you could possibly get was to plug into this thing. Now I can't remember what it is, but yeah, it's too bad. So let's see some of the cities. Oh wow, there's quite a few cities now. Yeah, there's 2 locations in Utah. Okay, it looks like California has 4 locations.
Wow.
But that's it, basically. Everywhere else only has 1 location. Surprisingly that Utah has that. Anyways, so that's some pretty genre-specific topic. I guess we can get back to E3 now. Well, we were talking about Project Scorpio, which they called the Xbox One X. Were you surprised by that at all?
Yeah, I thought they would call it something completely different. Give it, like, I thought they should have even maybe redesigned it and given it a whole new vibe. Just branded it as a completely different console. Because I think what they're going to run into now is now they're going to have to sell this to parents because, you know, the kids who want this are not going to be the ones with the cash and able to afford it. So now you have to sell it to parents as a whole new console that's more powerful. Rather than just saying, oh, hey, this is, like, naming it something different. And it's a different console. Like, it's literally a different console. This is the newest, best thing. But now you're going to have to sell it as it's still the Xbox One. It's just more powerful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I heard some pretty harsh reviews about it that it's like, it's great, but is it that great? You know, Xbox really needs to nail this. Like, this can't be 2 misfires for them in a row. So whatever they need to do, they need to make this best. Even if they have to drop the price point and give you awesome specs and take the hit, they need to get their names back on that they're the top echelon, you know, just like the 360 was. So I don't know. What do you think is going to come for it? Do you think they're going to sell a lot? I wish they would have kept the name Project Scorpio. I think that's way cooler, by the way.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely should have kept the name. But, I don't know if they're going to sell a lot, because I think it might be too soon. Remember how long we had the last consoles, like the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3? I mean, we had those things forever. And now, it's like, I forget when the Xbox One came out, but it was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
I think it was longer than that. Let me look it up real quick. This surprised me,
while
too.
While you're looking it up, I'll just say, I just feel like it hasn't been for as long that we've been able to buy Xbox Ones and PS4s. It's just like, oh, you're already rolling out this, what I would call next-gen console.
So it's been since 2013. Sorry, I want to get in there. So it's been since 2013, so it's almost been 5 years since the Xbox One's come out.
Mm-hmm.
That time flew, by the way. This console feels like it's have a really short lifespan. But you're right, it does feel early. Doesn't it feel a little bit early?
Yeah, I think it feels incredibly early. If they had the technology to make it more powerful, by all means make it more powerful and call it, but make sure the game developers are ready to use that technology. Don't just put it out there because, oh, hey, we can put it out there. That's something that, companies like Acer should be doing, and not Acer, Asus should be doing, because they're just like, oh yeah, we want to show what our company's capable of. That's like a brand builder for them. But that's like a PC company's kind of deal, not really something Xbox should be doing. They need to be building things that people are actually going to use. So I want to see what games will come out for it that will actually use the technology in the console, because it has to be different than what we've seen on the Xbox One and PS4 thus far. It has to be just something that's going to blow our minds. It has to bring it up to what, your best PC can handle today,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember... I can't remember some of the games that they announced, but it doesn't seem like there's too many new IPs, like there's too many games. And back to them not saying VR support, that it surprises me that they didn't get more into the tech behind it. They're 4K, it does this stuff now, but they didn't really get into future projections. If you can take, I don't remember if they didn't announce anything you could take it apart and easily add in more RAM, right? They didn't add anything like that.
No,
which go ahead.
I was going to say, consoles have never been known for being having that expandability feature. If they did, then I think they'd switch a lot of PC gamers, because the big thing with PC gamers is they're always saying and I like PC gaming a lot, but they're always oh, it's the expandability issue. At least I can buy the same case and the same motherboard, and I can switch out the graphics card when it gets old. I can switch out the memory when it gets outdated. I can switch out the hard drives whenever I want to. I can even switch out the complete motherboard. Then you have basically a new PC in the same case, but it's the same deal that you can always be expanding it. But with consoles, it's you pay $400 and you have it for I wouldn't say a couple years, but let's say if it's a good console, you have it for 10 years. At the end of those 10 years, it feels dated and you're looking for something new. That's there's the way that consoles have always been marketed and always have worked. But PCs, every year you can start making it brand new, so you never get really bored of it.
Exactly. So how do you see MR fitting into this realm? Do you see Sony getting into the MR game? Because they announced some VR stuff. Or do you think they're going to continue to milk VR for a while? Or do you even see MR gaming as a potential avenue for Xbox or PlayStation to approach?
I see PlayStation's going to stick with VR because they already made that investment. They're already deep into it. They've already put in all the research and development into making a headset. They're too deep into it, and they only have I looked at some figures, and they only have 1.7% of their users who purchased VR and actually use it.
How many percent? What percent was that?
1.7% of I think. Let me look at the number for you. They have 55 million. They have an install base of 55 million, and they're the only amount of people. And I'm trying to look.
Is this Microsoft?
This is the PlayStation right now.
Okay.
My Microsoft has a much smaller one on their Xbox. 1 million. So for PlayStation VR, they have 1 million users. For PlayStation 4, they have 55 million. So you can see kind of this, this
gap.
dissociation between, oh, hey, VR is cool and I want it for my console, and hey, I just have this console and I don't really care about VR. And I think that's the biggest thing that VR is having trouble with, is showing these casual gamers who don't want to put a ton of money into it that, hey, VR is worth it and it actually enhances your experience by tenfold and it's worth the extra $400, you know?
That's interesting. I wonder how they're going to sell that to people, because that's a lot of people to convince of a new medium, because VR is a complete new medium. It's not even it's not just like try to convince someone to get a game or get a certain controller or get a new console. It's a completely different medium to try to sell to people, which can sometimes be exciting. But I mean, I guess your statistics, I mean, VR has been out for a while, so to say that only 1 million people have it, I don't know. You know, I'm going to look at Vive sales real quick. I'm curious to how Vive has been doing.
I know the PlayStation 4 VR isn't even close to competing with Vive or Oculus. They're just completely different worlds. So for the purposes of this discussion, I was sticking with that PlayStation VR only has 1 million users. But obviously it's a middle ground. It's kind of a middle value headset. It's not as good as Vive, not even close to as good as Vive, but you don't have to have all the anchors in your room and things like that. So I'd say that's a bonus of it.
So it looks like, so here's how like the sales have been stacking up. I can kind of compare PlayStation VR to the other one. So it looks like Gear VR has been the first. Gear VR is like a phone VR, correct?
Yes, I believe so. Let me look at that. I'll look them up as you. Gear VR.
There's Gear VR, which
no, that's Samsung's. Yeah.
So is it where you put a phone in it, or is it its own complete device?
I'm looking at it. Oh, yep. You throw a phone in it, so yeah. It's a phone VR. So it's a little worse.
So again, that makes sense why that one's the most sold one. So it looks like that's the most sold with in quarter one of 2017 with 780,000 sales, which is pretty decent. PlayStation VR comes in second with 375,000 sales. So that's pretty big, actually. That's pretty good to compete. And below that is Google Daydream with 170,000 sales. So quite a big difference between those two. And then way down there is HTC Vive with 95,000 sales and Oculus Rift with only 64,000 sales. Now, this brings up an interesting topic that we've talked about a lot, and I basically bring it up every podcast just because I think it's so interesting and I cannot wait to see what the future thinks about it, is this good enough experience. So we can see between HTC Vive and Oculus Rift, they are getting outsold by almost tenfold of just the where you put your phone in it. So do you see this playing out into the mixed reality sphere at all?
Yeah, I can definitely see a danger of it, especially because now you have the mainstream media kind of picking it up, and they're not really identifying differences between VR and MR, or AR, really. They're just kind of lumping them all into one kind of concept.
Whatever they want to call it.
Yeah, it's whatever they want to call it, and let's face it, the mainstream media is the mainstream media because a lot of people ingest mainstream media, right? So they have to kind of walk this line very carefully. And I think Microsoft is doing a great job of it by really sticking away from, hey, this is for consumers and more going to businesses. But I think once Magic Leap comes out with a device, which in no way is it going to be cheap. I don't see Magic Leap being a cheap device. I
don't see it being cheap either by any means.
It's going to be interesting seeing how these companies try and sell these devices as, oh, hey, this is why you pay more money. And when I'm looking at the prices of these cheaper VR headsets, like the Samsung Gear VR, it's like, without a controller, it's $45. Originally $100. Right now it's the 2016 version. On Amazon right now, I'm looking. You can get one for half off, really, for $45.
Okay, so I have a question. So, do you think, and I propose this to any listeners out there, I'd be really, really interested to see what everybody thinks about this. Do you think if there wasn't a Gear VR, if there wasn't like a phone version of VR, do you think HTC Vive and Oculus Rift would have sold more?
No, because they would have had trouble selling it to people who didn't understand what it was doing or like why they needed it. And that's a really hard thing to do, like they would have had to spend a lot of money setting up these demos, which I know didn't the Vive set up demos in like some Best Buys, like select Best Buys? You could go use it in a living room setting.
Yeah, and you can a lot of places actually you can try them out. Best Buys, and they had an Oculus or a Vive or some sort of VR system at every Microsoft store and stuff. So I mean, there's pretty good ones out there. But I guess I would beg to differ. I would think that if Gear VR didn't come out, there would be more people that wanted to get the HTC Vive, because I think the dilemma comes is people see the Gear VR tag and they're like, I have a phone and this costs $40 and I can do basically the same thing as what Vive looks like. Without ever trying a Vive, they can say, I can basically do that. So why do I even need to try or look at a Vive? Because I already have this VR experience. And the Gear VR experience is nowhere near, like completely different parallels than it is to the Vive or the Rift. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I honestly think that if it didn't come out, people would have been more inclined to try the Vive or the Rift. Or, I don't know. I'm curious. So yet again, what? So you think it would have sold less?
Yeah,
probably?
Because it's such an expensive thing to just like buy to try, you know? But it's really interesting with these like physical interaction devices, because like when we get computers that are expensive, we don't buy those to try them out. We buy them because we know they're going to be good and we know what the experience is like. But how did we really get to this point? Because computers have never been cheap, to say the least, you know? They've always been this luxury item. Like from their first inception, they were not very expensive, I would say. Like when they came out to consumers, they weren't cheap items though. Like it was kind of like the prized item that a family had, such as like when television came out, you know? It's not like
an Apple II. Like an Apple II was a very like luxury item. Not very many people had them. People knew what a computer was, but not everybody had it. But now, I mean, you can go to Best Buy and pick up a computer for $250, $200. You know what I mean? So you're guessing what that transition period between that was?
Yeah, and I'm guessing how would it happen for VR if they didn't have all these cheap headsets? Let's say that the only way you could get into VR is you had to blow at least $500. I think you'd still have this niche market that we see right now where, correct me if I'm wrong, between the two, Vive and Oculus, there was like 120,000 sales units sold.
Vive was 95,000, Oculus was 64,000.
Okay, so 160,000, or at least 160,000 units. So yes, I think you'd still have this niche market where it'd be people who they're driving the innovation and they're driving the market, and those are the people who are bringing down the prices for future people. So you can just consider these people early adopters. And yeah, eventually I think it'd reach these super high sales, but we definitely wouldn't be reaching these million numbers right now, at least, in my opinion.
Because well, I guess the thing is we have to look at it, because I mean the Vive was released in 2016, and the Oculus was even before that. So they're not. Well, I guess was the Vive really released in 2016? I thought it was really? 2015.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of released directly to compete with Oculus.
Let me look at Oculus Rift release date. March 28th, 2016. Are they really that new?
I did not realize that at all. I guess we've always just seen videos of these developer editions.
I guess since we're part
like
of the scene. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I guess that's a little bit fair. $600 for an Oculus Rift. Yeah.
And about the same for HTC, right? For the Vive.
Only a year, really. For some reason, VR feels like old news to me. It doesn't feel like it's that new of a technology. Yeah. Why is that?
I don't know. I think it's because we've had it on our phones for forever. You know, like people didn't realize it, but we've had the VR technology on our phones for a really long time.
Like Google Cardboard?
Yeah, Google Cardboard came out after the fact. I believe that's even new-ish.
Now I'm going to check that.
Okay.
2014. Okay, good. It's been around for a little bit longer.
Okay, good. But remember when you showed me Time Couch?
Yes.
That VR experience?
YouTube VR, yeah.
Yeah, YouTube VR has been around for a while, and I think that's why we're not experienced these premium devices. We've just experienced these kind of just like it's good enough experience. And I think that's maybe why we think it's old news. Almost.
And okay. Oculus initiated a Kickstarter campaign in 2012. So Oculus has been around for 5 years now, but we just saw the release a year ago. So I tried one of the dev kits before Microsoft bought it. Before anything had that, we had a friend that had a dev kit, and I tried it, and that was probably a good few years ago now. At this point, so maybe that's why it feels so old. I didn't realize though that it's only been like a year since Vive has come out and the Oculus have actually been released. It feels so much older in my head for some reason. Do I feel this way just because technology is moving so fast, so it feels like old news already? Or how do consumers feel about this? Does VR still feel like a new, unattainable thing, or does it feel like old news to consumers? Because my feeling is what I've picked up from consumers is that it's already old news, or is that just me imposing my feelings on other people?
I don't know. I kind of feel the same way, but whenever I like talk to my friends about it here who aren't as into this kind of stuff, they're like, VR is super cool. Like, one of my friends is considering getting PlayStation VR, and I'm like, yeah, it's all right. But I'm always like, the idea just feels old to me now. So maybe that's just us being like Holo douches, just being like,
we've
experienced the HoloLens. Yeah, we've moved on to what is a better technology in like all around in terms of usability, I'd say.
We've matured past VR. We're a more sophisticated form of reality at this point. That's going to be the name for this podcast. Is mature. A more mature. We should name it that. So we'll think of a funny name to go around that. That's what the name of this podcast is going to be. A more mature form of VR. We've matured past VR. That's going to be the name of this podcast. It's so true, though. I mean, at least that's the way I feel. I mean, like, VR feels a little childish to me. I don't know. That doesn't sound wrong. I don't know how to explain my feelings about this. How do you feel about VR? It sounds
kind of pretentious to say that, oh, hey, if you use VR, you're, like, immature because your tastes are not in line with ours. Like, and I think that's a problem that you risk when you, like, say that MR is just better, which I'll say, yeah, MR is just better. That's all there is to it.
Joseph Rompola said it a great way, if he doesn't mind me quoting him, and maybe not quoting him 100% correctly, but he's like, when he talks to VR people, because he's very big into the AR sphere, and he's discussed with many, many people in the VR sphere. So he says that it's like, hey, they can work hand in hand, they could kind of go head in hand, but at the end, we all know AR, MR, this technology is going to overtake that, which may aggravate a lot of people, but luckily our viewers are one-sided like us, so that's going to work out totally fine. But I don't know. VR just feels... Maybe that's one of the reasons. Okay, I'm going to go back. We're going to take a way step back to the very beginning of the podcast. So if you're just tuning in for this part of it, go listen to the very first part of it where we talk about Xbox X. Xbox One X. This is a terrible name, by the way. I think I changed my answer. Here's the reason they're not talking about VR. Because VR is a year old. That's why. They can still milk this console for all it's worth. So it's going to be kind of along the same answer. They can milk it for all it's worth, and then they're going to announce their VR device next E3, and they're still going to get just the same amount of sales. Because what a lot of people do with technology is they don't get the first iteration of it. They wait till their friends get it. They wait till everybody has it. So they're going to get just as many sales if they wait. I mean, it's only been a year, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I actually definitely agree when I think about, like, so say a new phone's about to come out. Like, the Google Pixel just came out. I like the Google Pixel a lot. I like the idea of it. I'm also a big Google fan. I think both of us are really big Google fans.
Yep.
But I'm not going to put down the money right now to buy a Google Pixel because it's a new piece of, like, yeah, it's a phone, and all phones are pretty much the same thing. Like, if it has the same processor and similar specs, it's going to run the exact same as anyone else's phone.
Yeah.
But there's still bugs possible. Like, when we look at the Samsung Galaxy Note that was exploding and stuff, like, that's just, you don't want to have to experience that bug with your phone, so you're going to wait and see, does the bug occur? And then if they come out with a Pixel 2, I'll probably pick one up, or I'll pick up like a year-old Pixel because, hey, nothing went wrong with them in that year. So I'll let other people be the beta testers with stuff like that. So I think you're right, and I think the Wired article puts it best when they say that Microsoft isn't investing in Xbox right now, in the Xbox VR right now, because they have such a small market on the Xbox One right now. I think the latest number was like 25 million users on the Xbox One. So, but they have such a huge amount of users on their Windows platform. So if they build VR devices, if they build VR technology into their PCs, they have a lot more people to get after. I think it's like, I don't want to, it's over 500 million people use Windows PCs. Like,
it's by far by not the most used OS. I mean, like, not even comparable to some others.
And what the Wired guy says is that that's where they are going to put their bread and butter for a while here, investing in that, because that's a huge market. And even if you get 1% of that, that's more than what you would have had on your entire, not entire Xbox One, but even if like 5% of your Xbox One people would have gotten it, that's how many you would have had. So I think that's where they're putting their money right now, is in this kind of Windows platform, and just kind of letting the Xbox One X just kind of sit there like this gentle giant, just waiting for the time when they're going to release all the technology for it that goes along with what's currently in it.
That's a good point. And one thing that Xbox has taught me, because I've always been an Xbox fan. I've had the original Xbox, the Xbox 360, and now I have the Xbox One. I've always enjoyed them. One thing that it's taught me, though, is that consumers are not always right. Do you remember when the original Xbox was coming out? And there was so much backlash, because the reason they called it the Xbox One is because it was going to be one device. It was going to be the one device you needed to watch movies, to play games, to play music, to do stuff on your TV. It was to watch TV, to do everything. You just needed one device, Xbox One. That was its original name, and that was its original intention. They wanted to get rid of discs. They wanted to get rid of everything, basically, that we'd held dear to our hearts for the original consoles. And there was so much backlash. But if we look at the way technology is now, that's totally how it is today. Nobody buys discs anymore, Everybody just uses their console as their console choice, or a device, whether it's a smart TV, or whether it's a Blu-ray player, or whether it's an Xbox or a console. They use it as one device. They don't get multiple devices. That's how we've seen it transition. But Xbox was not very smart, and they went back and they changed a lot of their methodology, and they changed a lot of their technologies to focus more on what consumers want. But here we go, 5 years down the road, and they were right all along. That's completely what it is. And now they're trying to even go farther on that, and they're trying to deliver a more powerful game-oriented device. Instead, they're getting away from that one device. So do you think Windows is going to try to be that one device, or one OS?
No, because Windows is always going to be, ultimately it's going to revolve around the business users and the developers and people like that. They're going to make it easy to use for just people who are using it to get on the internet. But they make all their money in enterprise applications and things like that. So they're going to be more interested in dealing with those people than they are with your average consumer who just wants something like a Chromebook where they can just get on the internet. They can maybe use a word processor every once in a while, but anyone who wants to do heavy lifting knows how to use the OS to its full extent. So it's going to have this hidden power, and they're going to keep building out that power but they're not going to market that power because they don't need to really market Windows. It's just, if you buy a PC, you're going to have a Windows operating system on it, and they just don't need to market that anymore.
Well, we've seen the transition. We've seen the transition in just a year. Last year around this time, E3, exactly a year from today, the HoloLens was getting a really big push and announcement. There was some stuff before that, but this was its really big, heavy announcement was today, a year ago, exactly. And they were pushing the HoloLens. That's what they were pushing, is the HoloLens. This year, what they've been pushing is Windows Holographic. So instead of pushing a specific device, they're pushing Windows tagged with whatever it is. Windows Mobile, Windows Computer, Windows this. Now it's Windows Holographic is what they're really pushing. And that kind of sums up their VR, MR experience, is this holographic tag. So that's an interesting switch in marketing that we've seen in just a year. I mean, a year from now, who knows what they're going to be marketing? Are they still going to be marketing Windows Holographic, or do you think this is because they've gotten so many devices, or do you think this is why do you think they switched from marketing just the HoloLens to the Windows Holographic device or platform?
I think it's because so the HoloLens is here to show, here's the extent of where our technology is right now. Windows Holographic is everything was built coming up to this kind of like tip of the iceberg type deal, it's what your average consumer will be able to play around with. It's what your small developer who can't afford a HoloLens but they can afford a $300 headset can start using and look at, and really that they can still develop for the HoloLens. It's not going to be exactly like the HoloLens, but it's going to be this effective tool to show here's the future of Windows. So I think Windows Holographic is going to be like this new almost OS that they're trying to sell for all future AR devices. Right now they're just shoring up market share, so they make sure all future devices. So like if HP comes out with something, if Acer comes out with something, if Asus comes out with something,
like Android is to a foe.
Yeah, and it runs on Windows Holographic. So, like, instead of runs on Windows, it runs on Windows Holographic. I think that's what their mission is here. And
do you think that's a smarter business approach? Instead of focusing on the technology, they're focusing on the platform?
Yes, and that's what Microsoft does best. They've never been good at devices. I mean, look at the Windows Phone, and yeah, they have these like the Surfaces. They've done a great job of, but when you look at
a lot of work to get to the Surface.
Yeah, but they're not an electronic device company. They're a software company, so they're doing the right thing for themselves. And if I was an investor, well, I am an investor of Microsoft, but if I was an investor with a lot of voting power, I would be very happy with how they're carrying out all of this right now, going back to their roots with, hey, we're a software company. We don't need to be doing all these devices. Let's get the software out there, and we'll license out the devices.
What do you think that says for the future of HoloLens? Do you still think they're going to keep it as a flagship product for them?
Yes, definitely the HoloLens will remain this flagship product. I hope the price comes down for everyone's sake, because it's a very, very cool device to use. But for your daily consumer at this point, it's not a necessary thing. It has a very large business application,
Yes. So we just did What do you think of the response to our video, We Need Help?
I think it's I think people are coming up with really good reasons about everything, about all the different devices we need to get, and why we should get them.
Did any of the responses? No. It seems like it's pretty split, actually. And there's some pretty good input. Like, it's really split between ODG, Meta, and HoloLens, which kind of puts us right back where we started. Sadly, I was hoping it'd be honestly like everybody's like Meta, or everybody's like ODG, or everybody's like we don't care. We just want to see more HoloLens content. But I mean, it's really split. Some people want ODG, some people want that, which kind of gives me hope for the genre in full, because I think it's good that not everybody's just automatically subscribing to the HoloLens. You people are still excited about these other devices, which kind of competition's good. You know what I mean? It kind of makes everybody do better. But
what about those? So someone mentioned these really cheap AR glasses, like the Vuzix or something like that.
The Vuzix, yeah. I can't remember which user it was exactly, but What do you think about those cheaper ones? There's another one I posted in Slack. Did you see the one I posted in Slack that was like a $30 HoloLens is what they're marketing it as?
No. I guess we'll add it into the description in this podcast, but inform me.
Yeah, so it's like a Kickstarter for a $30 HoloLens. I'm actually going to Google it. $30 HoloLens. It should pop right up. I spelled HoloLens totally wrong. HoloLens. All right, here we go. Zapbox. Mixed reality for $30. It's their Kickstarter. Here you go. I will drop this in the chat, even though there's 5 people here. So there you go, 5 people that are listening. Zapbox. Okay, so for those of you guys can go click on the link dump and check it out. So Zapbox, mixed reality for $30. Interactive virtual content in the physical world. Play mini golf, visit Mars, or paint in 3D, then create and share your own content. I would implore everybody to go check out their tech demo video. It seems really, I don't know. This is not what I thought it was. This is a different one than I saw.
Yeah, this looks cardboard headset.
It's basically
you have
the same
to have markers around the room.
But anyways, look, it's got controllers. It's even got controllers, all made out of cardboard and paper. So, let me see if I can find this on YouTube. We can cut this out of the Let me go to YouTube because now I'm curious. I want to talk about it. I want to make sure I'm saying the right product.
Mm-hmm.
$30 HoloLens. Okay, here's a Kickstarter for another one. I'll drop this in there. We could talk about this for a little while. Okay, and we're almost back to the podcast. There you go.
I was looking at one of the comments, and this guy just says, "This is an alternative to HoloLens in the same sense that getting stabbed in the eye with a fork is an alternative to a scalp massage."
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was on Reddit, but hilarious.
So the Zapbox. Here's 2 very similar takes on it. This one's $30. It's up for pre-orders. Okay, so they earned $84,000 in funding. Zapbox. Looks like Horizon earned. Probably by the time they're done, they'll earn over $100,000 in funding, and the original goal was $28,000. What do you think? Tell me your thoughts on these cardboard-esque devices for MR. Where do you think they fit?
They're going to be like what you give your kid. Like those
it takes
really
a phone.
cheap.
It takes a new, expensive, nice phone.
Yeah, but still, it's going to be like something you just have to be like, hey, kid, here's this for a little while. I need to be working or something, so this will keep you busy for a while. I just don't know how these might ruin experiences for some people if they don't do a good job.
Exactly.
There's also the Holo kit, which is another one of these $30 ones, which is another cardboard one. It's on the website VR Focus. I'll post that in the description right now. And they gotta tread carefully what they're running on these. Like, do they have their own proprietary software they run with these, or how are you using the MR here?
So it looks like, for a lot of them, some of them have their own SDKs. Some of them run on Google Tango. Some of them run on iPhone 7. Their new AR kit that HoloLens has released, that Apple has just released, is probably going to be on there. Unity Chan. Oh, for HoloKit, their flagship app. One of their flagship app is Unity Chan. You remember that? That's on the HoloLens. It's just an anime girl dancing. So it looks like you might be able to do UWP holographic apps. That'd surprise me, but at least for that one. So I guess the general, all these devices basically do the same thing. It's just to pick your flavor, of which one you want. These worry me, these devices, because when you market this as a $30 HoloLens, people are going to associate that with the HoloLens, with their experience as, oh, that was cool, That's all they're going to associate it as is, oh, that was cool. And they're not going to realize the power, because they're not going to take time to go look up the HoloLens and look up how much the HoloLens costs. They're not going to realize that they're comparing a $30 object to a $3,000 object. You know what I mean? We do it every day. It's this devaluation that is for a different podcast. The devaluation of goods in the United States is insane, but I'll get to that to a different podcast. But and in tech, it's getting pretty bad. So, do you think this has the potential to ruin anybody's experience, or do you think this has the potential to enhance AR and MR in a sphere?
I don't see it enhancing it. I see it being like this, one of these good enough experiences, where you just, once you use it, you don't have any desire to use the expensive version of it. or the real version of it, because, like, yeah, the Holo kit one might be a very nice, might be a great solution. I mean, if it runs on the Unity stuff, the Unity chan or whatever you said, it could be good, but not great. And I hope these companies do a better job of marketing that, because when smartphones came out, you didn't have this, oh, this is a $30 iPhone type deal. It was immediately competitors that were similarly priced, you know?
Exactly.
So I think we've spent a lot of time in our podcast comparing these MR devices to like the next phones, but companies are going a completely different way by saying, oh, you can just use your phone to create the same experience. I think that's completely misguided. It's gonna really make it cloudy for a little while here, as the companies that actually make AR MR devices are trying to get phones out of people's hands and just wear their wearable phones, I'll say. They're gonna have a big problem with showing how their device is different than a $30 one that's just on your iPhone or whatever. Even though Apple is also coming out with their own AR device, I think it's going to be just really interesting to see.
Exactly, and I think I could compare these kind of to the Wii. You remember the Wii, how it sold insanely well? It was really cool, but the Wii was always kind of a toy. Mm-hmm. You know, it didn't really enhance gaming. It didn't really enhance anything. It was just kind of a fun toy to play Wii Sports Resort with your friends and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And everybody kind of bought one, but just as like a toy, you know?
Yeah. And they never had, like, good games that weren't made by Nintendo. Like, whenever I went over someone's house with a Wii, we would always end up playing games made by Nintendo. Whether that just be, Wii Sports or Wii Sports Resort. It was never like, oh, come over and play a different game that wasn't made by Nintendo, you know? Exactly,
and Wii didn't make anybody go, oh, I want to become a gamer now. You know what I mean? It was, like, grandparents bought them. Everybody has a Wii. Basically, it's the most sold device ever because it's a toy, you know? And I feel like that's what these can kind of do. Like, these won't really enhance anybody's gaming experience, mixed reality experience. They won't do that. A lot of people might own one as just a little toy. I don't know. I'm just super curious. And we've talked about this since podcast 1, how these devices are going to fit into the realm. Because honestly, to me, this is as far as MR and technology standing, this is the most make it or break it right here, is how these... I'm getting distracted by this HoloKit video. It keeps playing over and over again. Is how these good enough devices fit into there, these cheaper alternatives. But man, they really have to stop marketing it as a HoloLens alternative, because, I mean...
It's not.
I mean, it's not. But that's the thing is, too, with the Google Cardboard, we see it, we're like, Vive alternative, VR alternative. Yeah, I don't know. It just scares me. The reason I talk about it so much is because it honestly scares me that it's going to kill MR and AR. I don't know.
I don't think it's possible to kill MR at this point in AR, especially with the HoloLens being widely adopted by businesses, because the people at businesses, they're not going to want a $30 one that they can use on their phone. Like,
there's no business application for that.
Yeah. The HoloLens is the HoloLens because it's the HoloLens and it works well in a business application, in a medical setting, and really anything where you're working with your hands or need extra information on top of the stuff without having to Google everything you're asking. You can just have it right up there in front of you as you look at devices. As you look at the item you're working on, you know? And that's what the HoloLens is good at. But these devices, I just don't see it happening. Like, this Vuzix is capable of doing that from what I'm looking at right now, and like the ODGs are capable of doing that, and these are going to be the expensive devices of our future that businesses are going to own, and people who actually want to use the device as not a toy will own. People like you and I who want to use them in daily life to just improve our daily information intake with, like, make our lives just that much easier, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it'll be interesting to see how they fit it. And we're gonna buy these. We'll buy a lot of these $30 ones, and we'll test them out, because that's the first thing I want to do when this Horizon comes out, is say $30 HoloLens versus $3,000 HoloLens, and actually show people what it is, because these tech demos, which we've seen with mixed reality, are very misleading. You know what I mean? They show this picture, especially on the Horizon one and the HoloKit one. They show these pictures and these videos of like these really high resolution holograms that are like moving with you and stuff. It's very short clips of each hologram, you know, because they're not these don't use spatial mapping. You know what I mean? So.
And they're not going to look 3D like they do on the HoloLens because it's going through your phone. It's going to look like an AR, like it's going to look like Pokemon Go. You're not going to be able to walk around it. It's just going to be, kind of like floating there. You're not going to have this impression that it's real.
It may look 3D, but it won't be 3D in the sense that HoloLens is 3D.
Yeah. You won't feel like it's in the room with you. You know, like how when you play like a game like Fragments, if you tried to play a game like Fragments on your phone, it wouldn't be a good game. Well, it would be a good game because it's just a good game in general, but it wouldn't be as immersive as Fragments feels on the HoloLens, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I'm interested about this Zapbox one, because the Zapbox actually uses like a little lens kit thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, the HoloKit also uses a lens. It's actually going to be a little pricier than just putting your phone in cardboard. It comes with a lens. This one's
got controllers, supposedly. And they got a video of a girl playing golf on Zapbox.
Yeah, I saw that video, and yeah, all of that is heavily computer generated.
Yeah, let's see.
And even some of these, I think.
Well, this technology's been here forever. This little QR code scanning has been around forever.
Yeah.
You know.
What I see in a lot of these videos, though, is I think they rip some of the holograms from like the Holograms app on the HoloLens, because a lot of them look eerily similar, you know? Like, I'm sure they're all built in Unity, but it just looks like, well, can your device actually output that? Or can your phone actually output it at that fidelity that you're claiming to show? Or are you just doing that because you're trying to sell a product?
Exactly. What is this experience? I mean, this is kind of weird, especially with the Zapbox one, where you have to put down markers in your space and do that. It can't do it. I feel bad for these companies, because if I was them, I would be crapping myself right now. If this was like my livelihood and I was banking on this working, because literally at Google I/O and Apple's press conference, they both literally just announced built-in spatial mapping to their phones and such, you know, using the cameras and using that kind of stuff. And I mean, that basically takes out, at least Zapbox, you know, that takes out all of what they do, you know. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm just excited to see where they go. I mean, we all know that most Kickstarters fail, so it's just a bound that these will fail, not really go anywhere. But it's interesting to see them getting into this field. I cannot wait to do comparisons. Who knows? Maybe we'll be blown away. What if we get one of these and we're like, wow, what the heck is the point of even having HoloLens at this point?
And then just do a video of the HoloLens being thrown in the trash because we picked a $30 one over it. Yeah, right.
We're renaming our channel to the Horizon Herald or something like that. The Zapbox Herald. Oh man, I don't know. Well, I can't wait. None of them. They're coming out soon. Oh man, these tech demos are so misleading. They're so misleading, man.
It's like the most misleading thing in the whole world. I mean, we even fell for it with the HoloLens. I think everyone fell for it with the HoloLens.
Minecraft.
Yep, Minecraft.
We still haven't seen it. I want it so bad, man. It wouldn't be hard, dude. The apps I've seen for the HoloLens are way more complicated than what Minecraft would be. You know, Fragments compared to Minecraft, porting it. Mm-hmm. Where is it? Where's our Minecraft? That's a good conspiracy theory we haven't talked about. Where the heck did it go? I'm Googling it. Why is there no Minecraft?
Well, in the comments we have some questions. So,
there's people here.
Yeah, Ravi says, what do you think about the new mixed reality headsets from Microsoft? So I'll let you answer that one.
So the new $300, their new Windows holographic headsets are really cool. Like, it's really exciting that Microsoft is taking this approach, and they're saying, you know what, we realize HoloLens is a $3,000 device, but we really want to push mixed reality and we want to push Windows holographic, so we're going to release these smaller devices. I think they're a little bit misleading, because we have not seen much for them. There's a lot of talk, but there's not much content about what they can do and what they can't do. Like, some people think they're VR devices. Some people think they can't do VR, in the traditional sense VR. Some people think they're just virtual desktop managers or virtual offices. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff up in the air, but I think what we can take away from all of this is that Microsoft really wants to put this in the hands of consumers and developers, which I think is really exciting. Would you agree with that, Paul?
Yeah, I think that's their biggest push here. Is just let's get this not fully formed version of MR in the hands of consumers and definitely in the hands of smaller developers. That's what I'm most excited for. The small developers who can't necessarily afford HoloLens that are able to actually test their apps now. And I think that's one of the most amazing things. I mean, I'm emailing this guy right now that we're going to do a couple of his apps, and he doesn't have a HoloLens right now, and I think it would be great for someone like that to be able to have one of these devices and be able to test out their own app without having to send it to us to test for them, you know?
Exactly, and I think it's really exciting. So we're looking forward to one. We probably won't get one just because I don't think they're going to do what we want them to do. I haven't seen much about their mixed reality recording for them, and I don't see much that it will offer that the HoloLens doesn't. So I don't think we'll get one. I would love to get a test kit and try it out and see what's up with it, though, because there's so many answers. Surprisingly, though, they're being pretty tight-lipped about it, and actually getting one is kind of hard. They've been kind of hinting at drop dates for quite a while, but we still haven't yet seen one. So, I mean, it's exciting, though. All right, let's go over to is there another one? Is there another comment there?
Pump up the volume. Asks, have you seen the videos of people playing around with the Apple AR kit? It works great for what it is, and they probably got it from Occipital. Their last video was about monoscopic trapping.
So yes. Actually, I did see it. There was the one, I bet you're referencing the first-person shooter video, if I'm correct. I think I actually saw your comment. You might have commented that on one of the videos, pump up the volume. There's like a first-person, I don't know if you saw this, Paul. They created like a first-person shooter with your phone. So you actually like walk around and you're like shooting ghosts and stuff like that. Like your phone where it is would be where the gun is, and you just kind of aim it and shoot. But they're in your space, like tracked there. Like not as good tracking as I would say on the HoloLens, but they're actually staying in relatively the same spot they need to be. And you can walk around your entire office and shoot these targets and stuff, which is pretty cool to just see out of a phone. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting what ARKit's doing, but I think it's dangerous to keep focusing everything on the phones. I think we've evolved past smartphones. Wouldn't you say, Paul?
Yeah, I think we're well beyond smartphones. I think we're reaching the limits of what smartphones can do, and I think these glasses are the next transformation of where technology is going. Like, do I really want to have to pull out my phone every time I want to see, like, oh, where do I need to head? Like, do I really want to keep my GPS in my lap or have it up on a display on my car? Why don't I just wear a pair of glasses and have it in my peripherals the entire time that I'm driving? Yeah.
And do everything that your phone would do.
Yeah, so I think it's just glasses are much more convenient. So, yeah, they work well for what they are. I was just watching a video on the Apple AR kit. I didn't watch the first-person shooter one, but I just watched one of the demos that Tim Cook was doing. And, yeah, it looks like it works really well. But that's not what MR is to me. MR is a wearable thing. I don't want to have my phone in front of my face the entire time. Even though I know most people have that all the time, I'm not one of those people who always has their phone out. I usually only pull it out to like text someone or look something up. I'm not a social media person, and I really don't have my phone in front of my face the entire time. So for me, if I want that information that MR is capable of providing, I want it in glass form. I want it always on and always working for me to always give me the pertinent information that I need. Exactly.
But they're going to milk. I mean, it's granted that they're going to milk the smartphones for all they're worth. I think I think we've evolved past it. And I don't know if you guys just joined, but we were talking about this devices for quite a while here, where it's this good enough experience. We feel like that can be dangerous to MR as it kind of was to VR. At least I feel it kind of hurt VR's experience and its adoption. So it'll be interesting. Let's see. Ravi says, have you seen the HoloLens DIY alternative for $20? How is that? So you must have just barely joined because we've been talking about that for like 20 minutes. Yes, we're just interested to see about them. I would say it's a stretch to say HoloLens alternative. Would you say that's okay? Would you say that's a fair assessment, Paul?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's a definite stretch to say that, hey, this is an alternative. Yes, it turns your phone into an AR headset. Is it a HoloLens alternative? I would disagree wholeheartedly. I don't even think an experience like that could come close to how good the HoloLens is.
I think the $400 device, the $400 new mixed reality headsets, I wouldn't even say those are a HoloLens alternative.
No.
I would say that's a mixed reality or an AR device, but no way it would be a HoloLens alternative. It's such a selective. I would say your closest thing to a HoloLens alternative, you're going to be looking at ODG, Meta, those kind of devices, upwards of $1,000. That's the only time you're going to get an alternative. As far as a fun little toy, yes. Ravi, we're going to pick them up. We're going to buy a couple of them, and we're going to try them out, and we're going to debunk, and we're going to show people how the videos are really misleading about them, and how the HoloLens is on such a different parallel. Obviously, for $3,000, it better be a different parallel, but we're just going to show that, and we're excited about that. You can try to make a video about the AR kit just because there's no investment required. Yeah, you're right. We are. Sadly, I don't think we know anybody with an iPhone. We could probably find somebody. We're all Android people. But we'll work something out. We'll find somebody with an iPhone probably and try it out. It looks interesting. But I don't know. I don't know. It'll be fun to look into, I think, the AR kit. Do you think it's worth a shot, though, Paul?
Oh, yeah. I think it's definitely worth a shot to try and make it happen for us.
Mostly I'm scared that we're going to find out that it's like a billion times better than the HoloLens or something, and then we're just like, oh man, why did we spend all this? No, I'm just kidding. Let's see. Microsoft is researching on the HoloLens 2, which just looks like normal goggles, which will launch in 2019. Interesting. So there's rumors about a lot of that, and they haven't said anything about anything. So I mean, it's just rumored. They haven't even really said they're going to release one. It's just kind of like, we may put it out sometime. When do you see a HoloLens 2, Paul?
I would actually agree with him saying that 2019 number. I think that's when they're going to need to refresh the HoloLens, because I think a lot of these devices might catch up. These, like ODG. Oh, I guess we haven't. I can't really say. I think 2019 would be a good time for it to come out. Again, right before they're ready to push like a consumer version, like bring out one more dev kit of a downsized version.
Do you see it looking like normal glasses or anything like that? I don't see that for a while.
I don't see it for a while either, but ideally it would look like normal glasses almost immediately. But these, like, they're usable at work. I mean, you're at work. You're not going to be walking around with a HoloLens on for a lot of people. They're using it at work, and it's no different than wearing a hard hat. That's why I think companies like Dacry are such geniuses to integrate their MR AR device into a hard helmet, And I think HoloLens should be looking for that kind of advancement as well, where, hey, we integrated into hard hats for engineers who have to work in hard hat environments and still need the power of our device,
Be a great business idea to make HoloLenses that can fit all different business stuff, like for drivers, they can make driver helmets for like truckers and stuff like that, or they could make, that's going to be a great business, and I think that's the evolution of it. Pump Up the Volume says it's not an alternative, it's an AR demo. I think that's 100% correct, but I think the scary thing about demos is there's no way to control who's demoing it. I think the HoloLens, if you hand it to anybody, they're going to enjoy it because it's such a great experience, even if it's a demo in the middle of nowhere doing anything. We've demoed the HoloLens thousands of times, and it's rarely not gone the way we wanted it to, right, Paul?
Yeah, I'd say basically everyone who uses the HoloLens loves the HoloLens by the end. Like, even my 80-year-old grandma, she put it on, was able to control it fine, and she was smiling the entire time, and she was putting holograms all around the room, and when I put it on afterwards, the room was just filled with holograms, and it was pretty hilarious. And it's just the fact that she doesn't even have a smartphone, and she immediately picked up the HoloLens and how it works, and really enjoyed it. And I think that's one of the things that these AR demos, we'll start calling them for that, those, even though they're not they're not marketed as those. Like these $20 DIY, they literally say alternative, like HoloLens Alternatives. They don't say HoloLens, like they don't say mixed reality demo or augmented reality demo. They literally market it as an alternative. I think it's just going to be hard to get people like my grandma or just people who are rather skeptical about technology like this on board, you know?
Exactly. It's like if if you had a Google Cardboard, and which is fun, and I've demoed that to a lot of people, you know, where you throw your smartphone in there. I've showed it to my grandparents, to little kids. It's fun. It's a toy. But, you know, they take it off, they're done, they're like, wow, that's cool. But not a single one of them have expressed further desire to get into a VR device or VR realm, you know? Most of the time, you know, but if I demoed them a Vive or Oculus, I think they would much more be apt to do that. But I guess you have to make a compromise. It's like you can't give everybody a HoloLens. We can't throw these out either. So I propose this to our listeners right now. Do you guys see these devices as hurting the future of augmented reality, or do you see them as like enhancing it? You know, there's parallels to both sides. You know, it could hurt it because it ruins people's perspective of AR. If you call it an HoloLens alternative, people see that and they say, well, if this is the HoloLens, I don't want to try it. I don't care about that. I'm fine with my smartphone. You know, there's no reason to get it. But, or is it getting the AR out there more? Is it letting people see, wow, these are the possibilities. This is what AR could be like. Now, if I get a cooler device, it could be even cooler. I propose that to our listeners, whether you're live or the pre-recorded version, to see what your guys' answers are. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I think again, it's just this fine line that you have to walk. I think VR has not gone the right way with it. Because, yeah, you let me use your Google Cardboard. And I was like, wow, this is kind of, like, this is a really fun experience. But then afterwards, I never thought about, like, oh, hey, Eric, can I try Google Cardboard again? Can I try Google Cardboard again? And I never expressed interest by going online and pricing out Vives and, like, finding a room that I can use the Vive in, or finding a room I can use Oculus in. I never really expressed that interest, and maybe that's just me, but I also feel like it's just because that experience wasn't good enough to be like, I want something better now, you know?
Exactly. But if I demo you a Vive, you'd probably be really apt to try my Vive all the time, right?
Yeah. Well, I would try it once, I feel, but I'm one of those people who gets eye tiredness from, like, a bright screen too close to their eye, and I think that's everyone, and that's where the HoloLens is different, because it's not a bright screen close to your eye. Like, I could wear the HoloLens for hours and not feel fatigue in my eyes. Like, you feel it on your head a little bit because it's not a light device, to say the least. But it's just different, you know? I'm not sure. Like, no, yeah, I'd love to play around with it, but I wouldn't. Oh, you know how sometimes when you show something cool to little kids, like when I first introduced my little cousin to, like, the PS3, he was like, "Can I play the PS3?" Every time I'd see him, he'd be like, "Can we go play the PS3?" And I'd be like, "No, not right now. I'm visiting." And he, like, every 5 minutes it'd be, "Can I play? Can I play? Can I play?"
Exactly, I don't know the same thing with my cousins.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd get that with a VR, like if you had an Oculus, you know.
Well, with an Oculus, so I actually just had all my cousins try it, aged 13 to 6, and a couple in between there. And I have videos of them trying it and stuff, and I mean, they were just begging me, especially the 13-year-old. The 13-year-old latched right onto it and wanted to try it a lot. I think he was old enough to that point where he could grasp how cool of a concept this was. When they're like 6, it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? It's just another thing. It doesn't care. They don't care if it's the iPad or if it's the HoloLens. They just want to game or do whatever, you know. But the 13-year-old really latched onto the HoloLens, and he instantly put down his iPad he was gaming on and just begged me to try the HoloLens. Begged. But other people were trying it. But he's like, "Can I try it after they're done? Can I try it after they're done?" And I think he's at that ripe age where he's like perfect to see. And I think that's really promising for AR, because that's going to be the generation that's really growing up with it. You know, Garrett, or the 6-year-old, my little cousin, that he AR is going to be in his world before he even knows it, and he's going to grow up with it, and it's not going to be anything special. But this 13-year-old's going to be right about that age as we were with the internet. I kind of equated that. 13's kind of when we realized what the internet was and what we could do on it. Before that, it was just another thing. But about 13 is when the internet started to get really popular, and you could find anything you want, and you would learn on the internet, and you would take your tests on the internet. And I kind of see that with the HoloLens, don't you?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think, around like 13, that's definitely when the internet became more than just a website, like mini clip. I think that's the game site most kids went to. Is just like the internet became more than just a mini clip. It became an actual information center where you can find everything. And I think the HoloLens is going to become this like study device, really, because I think that's where most kids will be kind of immersed in it, is at school when schools start realizing, maybe it's not public schools, maybe private schools start realizing that
it's the only way they'll have access to it.
Yeah. That, hey, this is a powerful teaching and learning tool. And that's where I think people are going to start realizing that that's where the HoloLens is bread and butter. That's where the main adoption base is going to come from, is like the educators and the students.
In the businesses. And the businesses, then they'll like transfer to home just like computers were. But I mean, we definitely see it at this realm. I guess we're just curious to see how these devices, these good enough devices, are going to affect that. Well, we're going a little long, but that's all right. What were some of our other topics we had to cover real quick? We can just breeze through them.
I think we actually kind of hit them all. Let me go through real quick and just make sure. So we talked about Microsoft at E3. Mm-hmm. We talked about the HoloKit. Yeah, I think HoloPay. That was going to be an interesting one.
Okay, yeah. So there's a video on YouTube. You guys probably just search HoloPay and find it. It's a tech demo that these fellas started that were at a hackathon group together, and they're like, "Hey, we built a pretty cool app in 24 hours. Let's actually try to build a business out of it, or at least an app out of it. Let's explore this idea more." And I think this shows probably the first app I've seen of everyday consumer use for AR. So what it is, or go ahead, Paul. You can go ahead and tell what it is.
So what it is an app where you can literally pay for things by tapping on them on AR, in an AR sphere. And when you walk up to a store, without even going into the store, you can check the inventory for your shopping list. So if there's not something you need in that store, you can just move on without having to go shop through the store. And later to find out, oh, hey, they didn't even have this. So that's one of the problems I run into a lot with going into electronic stores. And even some like grocery stores, I go and I'm like, all right, I need this brand and only this brand, or I need this hard drive and only this hard drive. Oh, we don't have that hard drive in store. You have to buy it online. Well, if I had this AR Pay app, according to their video, I would be able to tell before I even went in the store, and it just saved me maybe 30 minutes of looking and talking to some guy in the store. It's just an incredible time saver. And you can even use it at home if you're like looking in your fridge, I think is one of the things they showed. They looked at a beer.
He pulled out a beer, yeah.
Yeah, and they price searched it, and they found out like how much it would cost them and what stores had it available. And you can automatically order, and you know how like Kroger, Walmart, all those places now, you can order online and go pick up your groceries?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it enables, is an easier way of doing that. Even like you open your fridge, you're like, oh, I need a gallon of milk, tap. There you go. You got a gallon of milk on your shopping list. Next time you say, oh, hey, I'm heading to Kroger or Walmart, they already are collecting your items for you. And you didn't even have to like go to a website and pick them off of a list, you know?
Exactly. And one of the things they showed was Starbucks. Like, you walked in front of a Starbucks, he looked at the Starbucks, and he air tapped on the Starbucks, and then he picked his coffee while he was outside of it, and through the OK symbol, which is a really genius idea, by the way, to use the OK symbol to accept things. I love that. I love that integration. I want to see more hand use and less controller use. Anyways, They threw the hand signal, and boom, their coffee was ready to order. They walk in, and it was there by the time they walked in. Now, I guess the paradigm here is, I mean, yes, you can do all these things with a phone. You can take a picture of something with a phone. You can do everything. But the idea behind this is the seamless integration between you look at a purse you like that someone has, and you click on it, and it tells you what purse it is with this awesome image recognition that we're getting with technologies like Google's doing with the Google Lens, where you can literally look at a flower and it can tell you what it is, or you can look at a building and it tells you what building it is. Incorporating, we're kind of seeing all of these technologies that are focused around a phone or focused around VR gaming. They're all going to culminate into this awesome one AR world where you can get information on literally anything. You could look at you could walk up to a flower with your HoloLens and air tap on it, and it would tell you what flower it is, information right there. Or, let's say you're allergic to something. You can put it on a warning on your HoloLens. So every time you look at certain foods, it'll say warning, warning, warning. Don't, like if you have a peanut allergy, it could tell you if something has peanuts in it by looking at it could image recognition that it's got peanuts in it, or, lots of things, There's so many things, but what I think is really cool about HoloPay is it's just a tech demo, and it's it looks really real, but it's not to the point that they're showing it in the app. But that's the point of the tech demo. But it's just so cool to see this first user consumer based application idea. It's one of our first ones. It's not business based or not gaming based or not anything like that. It's actually built for users and consumers.
Mm-hmm. And the amazing thing is that the infrastructure is already set up in many of these stores for it to have a seamless integration. Like, a lot of these places already do Uber Eats. They already do order up, like those order food and have it delivered to you things. Well, if you're the one ordering it by just looking at the stuff on, like, whether you're in your pantry or whether you're right outside the store, they already have the integration there. So it's not going to require additional investment. It just requires the app to be paired with that investment they already have. And that's one of the really cool things to me, is that we already have this pay online and just go pick up the item type system set up for these brick and mortar stores. And it's just going to, I think it's all going to work together seamlessly if they can take this app from this tech demo to a full usable app. I can see myself using something like that every day of my life for the rest of my life.
Exactly. I mean, it makes shopping seamless, especially for like bigger objects. Could you imagine, let's say you're buying a tractor or a little four-wheeler or something like that. You could easily just plop the 3D version of it right in front of you and air tap or throw the OK sign and you've ordered it. You know what I mean? Or Amazon shopping, just easily slide through it, And I guess the matter is a lot of people are going to say, well, you can do this on your phone. Why do I need it there? And I guess it's just completely adding this technology to your world and to your surroundings, which some people are for and some people are against. And I think there's fair arguments to both. But I mean, just it's so cool to see people focusing on user-based applications, because that's what's really going to drive this to be a worldwide phenomenon. You know what I mean? The business apps are cool, and there's endless ideas for business apps. But to actually find everyday, real-world, consumer-based stuff, I mean, it's really exciting.
And I think this is going to sound like a really lazy response to the question of why do I need this if I already have my phone, is you're not going to have to pull something out of your pocket. You're not going to have to tap something. You're not going to have to look something up. All you have to do is do an air tap. Everything about that product comes up. If you want to order it, OK sign. If you don't want to order it, you don't have to do anything. Just walk away, and the app recognizes that you walked away. I think things like that. That's just this idea that it's that much easier. It saves you that much. Even if it's the smallest amount of time in the world, you're still saving time. And it's cool. It's seamless and it's cool. As long as if it works anything like the tech demo, it's a very, very cool thing to have.
Exactly. I think this pairs very well with our conversation last week that we had. If you guys weren't listening to our podcast last week, we talked about virtual salesmen and virtual augmented reality, which I think we're still quite a while away from stuff like that. But I think this kind of shows how that future is starting to become a reality. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it's like, because with this, with the tech demo, when they tapped on it, a bunch of product information came up next to it. So that product information could have been prices from around the city or reviews from local people who had to use it. And you can actually get an idea about, if it's like a car, how it works in your city. Because if you have like certain weather that's kind of not, everything's kind of unique. And I think it's a great way of giving people information they need without having to ask someone in the store for that information,
Exactly, and it's just all right there, easily accessible. So I think it's cool to just add it into your space. We need to do a top 5. We'll give you guys a teaser right now. We need to do a top 5 futuristic HoloLens apps, because I think HoloPay would fit right in there with that, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely a futuristic app, but I think it's in the near future.
Exactly. So I think an app that would fit into it. I think the Sword Art Online MMO game that we've seen, it's not out, but we've seen tech demos for it. You know, the one where everybody that wears a HoloLens has like a character, and you can like trade with that character and fight that character, stuff like that. I think that's a very plausible future that we see, which would actually be pretty cool, like a real world MMO thing. Yeah. And there's a few others, but I mean, it's kind of funny that we're saying futuristic, even though most of the apps that are on the HoloLens seem futuristic to most people. Have you become numb to the HoloLens at all? Well, I guess you've been away from trying it from a little bit, but when you were trying it and such, did you kind of become numb to how cool it was?
Yeah, I think I became numb pretty... I wouldn't say quickly, but it was quicker than I thought I would become numb to it. You know, like after like probably about a month of use of it, it was kind of like, after a while, it was just like, oh, this is just normal now. Like, this is what technology is going to be and currently is, you know? It just kind of becomes natural, I'd say. It's not really numb, it's just natural.
Exactly. Know? And I think that's the true sign of a great technology. I think smartphones are like this. So we just got my grandparents a smartphone, and they immediately adopted it. And they were super resistant to getting it, but right when they got it, it just became something that's part of their everyday life. My grandpa loves it, my grandma loves hers, you know, and they use it a lot. You know, maybe they don't use like all the internet applications for it, and they don't use everything available for it, but they use it a lot, you know, and it's become a seamless part of their day use very quickly. I think that is the sign of a truly great technology, one that is adopted quickly and becomes a seamless part of your life, like it's just another addition to your life. And I feel like HoloLens and mixed reality technology is a lot like that. But I think the only thing that's going to make that possible is through glasses and wearables. I think adding it into the phone is not going to make that a reality.
No, because in order to use these high-tech stuff, you're going to have to pull your phone out every time. When you could just go up to the store and like say, oh, that's what I want, instead of having to pull out your phone, aim it at the item, tap your phone, and do all this other stuff. It has to be a wearable. And
the thing is the phone. Let me try to think of this of a way without making it sound completely confusing. The phone can do augmented reality pretty well, but the wearable device can do the phone better than the phone can do the phone, plus doing the augmented reality. Does that make any sense the way I said that?
Kind of. I don't know if it will make sense to our viewers.
Help me try to expand my idea. So I'm saying the phone, a wearable device can do what the phone does better than the phone can. But a phone can't do what a wearable device can better than a wearable device. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like the phone can do everything that the AR device can do. But the AR device can do it with more convenience and
can do everything what the phone can do.
Yes. Wait a minute. Yes. Okay. They can do the same things. Like the technology will always be able to do the same things. Like we're already seeing that sort of with like what Apple AR kit's looking like. You know, it's looking nice. Like it's looking really good. Like a really good AR.
Yes.
But you have to pull out your phone to use it. With a wearable AR device, it's always working for you. It's the convenience that you're paying for, I think, with these AR wearables. And
I don't think it's just the convenience. I think it's the whole experience is going to be better on a phone. I mean,
yeah. On a
information,
device? Yeah.
Yes, on a wearable device. And Ravi says it makes sense. So hopefully, I conveyed my feelings. It's like I can do everything you can do, but better. You know, and so they can both do everything the other one could do, but the wearable can just do it all better. You know, so it's no reason to keep the phone, and the phones have been around so long that it's just time to move on, upgrade to a new technology. But it'll be a while. I think people are going to be really resistant, especially people that just probably bought a new phone and will continue to keep buying new phones for thousands of dollars. You know. Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'll be one of the first adopters to get rid of my phone, though. I think it's ridiculous to have to pull out my phone every time I want to do something.
Exactly, but I'm just ready for the progression of technology for the fact of that. But man, well, I think it's been a great podcast. I hate to end it when we have so many people here. Thank you, everybody. Any other topics we missed, Paul? Did we miss anything?
Not that I can see. I'm sure next week we'll have a lot more about E3. But for right now, we just had Microsoft's kind of conference to go over, and they had a lot to say, and there was a lot of news generated about that. So I think that was our most exciting one. And then we had a really good discussion about internet speeds.
Oh yeah,
which is a little out of our MR sphere, but it was still good nonetheless. So
exactly,
yeah, it was great.
Well, I wanted to talk about the community. We'll have to get to the next week. Next week, if you guys join, and remind me to talk about
Steam it.
Sorry. The comments are distracting. I have to look away. Yeah. So I want to talk about the community. I want to talk about Steam it. I want to talk about some other YouTube stuff. So we got some cool things in the works, but next week, remind me to talk about that. But I think, let me go ahead and get this music playing right now because that's what I have to do. I was not prepared. Where'd it go? Okay, here it is. All right. So I'd like to say thank you to everybody that joined us on the Holo Herald podcast, episode number 15. It's been a real great time. We had quite a few people stop in and a lot of comments. This one ran a little bit longer than normal, but if you guys like that, or if you guys like shorter podcasts, or you guys just let us know what you guys like. I just like to say thank you to everybody that stopped in. It was a great time, and I'd like to thank all of our listeners at home. Thank you. This has been the Holo Herald podcast.
Thank you. We appreciate all of you, including the lurkers, no matter what Eric says.
Love you guys. See ya.